Hey guys, so today I'm just going to be going over my prismatic builds, build, because this is a 3-in-1 build that I have cooked up, and it has the potential to be the strongest prismatic build that there is. It'll be used for, there's 3 different setups. One of them is for raid settings where there's like damage checks, so big damage build. The second setup will be for like GM's higher tier content where you want ideally more damage. And the third is also for higher tier content, but also great for lower tier, some more ad clear. And it is the melee centric portion of the build. So the subclass, fragments, and aspects for all 3 of these, so the prismatic options, are going to be exactly the same. The only thing changing will be our grenades, I think, and the dodges, and also our exotics. So starting off with the raid build is what you currently see. It will be, oh, actually, that's going to get cut out. So starting off, let's go over the subclass. So there's this neat little infographic designed by Corp Projects. Pretty cool thing. I found it on Reddit. So we're just going to go over this real quick. For the super, we will be taking the golden gun. This will be on all 3 of our setups. Just because it is solar, has very good synergy with Celestial Nighthawk, which we'll go over later. And it will interact with some of our fragments that we'll go over later. For our melees, most of the time we will be running combination blow. But this is highly dependent on the encounter. The only time you would use something like Knife Trick or Withering Blade is if it is a very long-ranged type of encounter. In that case, you're not really able to use combination blow. But for the 9 times out of 10, we're going to be using combination blow. For grenades, we will mostly be sticking to the Duskfield grenade. But for the melee build, we will be switching to the grapple, which we'll go over later. And for aspects, all of them will have Stylish Executioner, which has 2 slots, as you can see. 2 slots for fragments. And we will be using Winter's Shroud. But in the melee build, we will be using Threaded Spectre. So actually, let me just box that real quick. Winter Shroud. And I'll go over these choices pretty soon when we get into the playstyle of the build. We will also be using, nope, we'll be using Triple Jump because it's easy to control. And Gambler's Dodge most of the time to get our combination blow back. These 2 feed into each other. If you aren't already familiar, combination blow, when you get a kill with it, it will automatically fill your Gambler's Dodge ability 100%. And your Gambler's Dodge, when you dodge near enemies, you get your melee back. So it's a pretty nice chain that you can pull between these 2. And of course, we don't really have a choice with the Prismatic Grenade. When you're activating Transcendence, you get a special grenade. It'll replace the Dusk Field. But it does the same important thing, which is applying a darkness debuff, the slow. So getting into the aspects, or the fragments, sorry, the fragments that we're going to be using in this, it will be the same for all of the builds. Let me pull that up. There we go. So we will be using these 5. So if I pull this up side by side real quick, and we head over to Prismatic, you can start checking some of these out. So first up we have aspect, the courage aspect. Light abilities deal increased damage to enemies affected by stasis or strand elemental debuffs. Now, if you remember, we have Winter Shroud, we have Duskfield, and we have the slow from our Transcendence Grenade. These are our sources of darkness debuffs. And light abilities includes our golden gun, and it includes our combination blow. So depending on how much of a damage boost this is, there should be a stacking damage boost. It should help our golden gun damage quite significantly. If it's like 20%, that's huge. Let's see what's next. We have protection. That is down here. Protection. When this functions somewhat similarly to the arc fragment, if it's similar, that is, it will give damage resist when you are near enemies. And let me see if I can pull that up. Yeah, within 15 meters of at least 3 enemies, 25% damage resist. This is a very, very useful tool. And if prismatics is the same, that should be pretty strong. Purpose is our next one. So if you remember, we chose the golden gun as our super, which means orbs of power will grant restoration. This is very nice to have. It is a uninterruptible healing. It's quite strong. Next up, we have sacrifice. Ability kills while affected by an arc, solar, or void elemental buff grant darkness transcendence energy. So we will be having restoration, and we will have radiant from other sources. We will also have amplified from other sources. So if you don't already know, whenever you get 4 kills with arc, 4 kills on a minor, or 2 elite kills with arc, you intrinsically get amplified. This is intrinsic to the arc subclass, but in the gameplay that I saw that some YouTubers posted, they were getting amplified from getting arc kills. So as you can see, intrinsic arc subclass buff upon reaching 100% counter through arc kills. This is from any source. There you go. And this is a light buff, which enables sacrifice. The second part, the darkness transcendence energy. Our main damage to adds, which is how we'll fill up our transcendence meter, and our main damage dealing source, which is our golden gun super, and another solar thing that we'll go over in a second. But most of our outgoing damage is going to be light. This will help keep our darkness transcendence up as well. We don't want it to be too one-sided. Okay. And ruin. Bigger ignitions and stasis shatter. So shattering deals an additional damage instance and increases the damage, does more size also. Ignitions have increased radius. We'll get into this as well later. But mostly what we're looking for is a shatter from this. This will tie into our weapons. As for our weapons, we are going to be using the Still Hunt as our energy weapon. In case you don't already know about this weapon, it has 6 bullets. You hit 6 crits, and or you pick up 12 orbs. It fills up a little bar on the side of your screen, and it allows you to turn this gun into a golden gun. It's basically super. This does interact with the Celestial Nighthawk in that precision final blows. Not this part, but it modifies golden gun to fire a single high damage shot. And through some testing that was done, this sniper shot does basically the same as a super golden gun shot. It's basically you get another golden gun shot using just this exotic. Very strong. And for our main weapon, we're going to be using the bold endings, heavy burst hand cannon. This is the spreadsheet that I think Dado put out, or Fallout. It was someone. We're going to be taking Headstone and Dragonfly. Headstone for the stasis crystal on precision kill, Dragonfly to immediately blow it up. Also with the artifact this season, precision kills with weapons that have the dealer's choice origin trait will explode in a solar explosion. So basically Sunshot is what we're going for here, a legendary Sunshot. It'll be quite strong, I think. As for armor mods, I don't think I have them set up yet, but I've tried to emulate the stats that we will get from these. So plus 20 discipline, plus 10 strength, plus 10 mobility, minus 10 recovery. I've tried to get as best as I can here. Unfortunately, Solar doesn't get mobility or 2 sources of discipline. So pretend this is 90 mobility and 100 discipline. As for the mods, the only thing that's really important is the triple heavy-handed, because this will reduce the cooldown on creating orbs of power from one of them is a 10-second cooldown. Nope. 2 is a 5-second cooldown. 3 is a 1-second cooldown, which means on basically every kill, you'll be getting an orb. And each orb will feed us restoration and radiant through the artifact. The chest will just get resists. Boots, surges, I guess, yeah. Just throw on solar surges for the still hunt. And the class item probably is just going to be this setup here, powerful attraction, time dilation for the surges, and this is a floater slot. In harder content where you're finishing stuff, this is very useful. Yep. So that is the first build. The second. Oh, I should go over the heavy. Rocket, preferably solar to match the still hunt. Pretend this is a still hunt. Yeah, that's about it for this. So for the second one is going to be a Lucky Pants setup. This is my current stasis Lucky Pants setup with that. But basically it will have the exact same setup as our Celestial, except it will instead be using the Lucky Pants. Ignore the stats, I haven't fixed this loadout yet, but it will be using that double fire hand cannon, because remember we are using a heavy burst hand cannon, same type as Word's Law. This is very, very strong in combination with Lucky Pants. So this can be used to burst down champions. For that, we will probably want something like Rapid Hit and maybe like Golden Tricorn. I don't know, like any of these. It doesn't. This one doesn't really have the best perks. You may as well just use a Warden's Law as well. It's really up to like whichever one you are more comfortable with. And the third build is, again, same subclass setup, but it will have no exotic, because it'll be using the exotic class item, which is not out yet. So that will be using the exotic class item, as I mentioned, and we'll be taking the Spirit of Inmost Light, or oh, it's right there, the Spirit of Caliban. So powered melee kills trigger an ignition. This will help with our ad clear a lot with our combination blow. And we will also be taking either Spirit of the Liar or Spirit of the Synthoceps, depending on how much of a damage boost this is, just to beef up our melees even more past what they already are. So, I think this third portion, depending on how the damage stacks, could be extremely, extremely strong, possibly the best damage build in the final shape. For the just for the base reason that combination blow is stupidly strong. So I have done some numbers. So taking a look here, this is the base damage that a combination blow melee or a uncharged melee does to a dreg in the EDZ. 10248. In -15 content, this number is a lot lower. It is about 4606. This is in Yamuna Patrol, which is -15. Anyways, combination blow is 60% increased damage per stack, which comes out to a 4.09 times multiplier. Stylish Executioner intrinsically makes you deal plus 150% damage when you're dealing melee damage coming out of Stylish Executioner, which I will show you just a second. There we go. Melee attacks deal 150% increased damage and weaken enemies. This applies to the damage that you're dealing for 5 seconds. So this is a 150% damage increase. Stylish Executioner. If they are already tractored beforehand, there is a 1.3 times multiplier because it's a 30% increased damage taken on the target. If the target is frozen from, let's say, our Dusk Field or from our Winter Shroud dodge and is frozen, that is a 2.31 times multiplier. This does not stack with 1-2 punch, in case you were wondering. Also, you can't do 1-2 punch and get the Stylish Executioner buff. Then if you have Synthoceps on your class item, that is a plus 165%, so a 2.65 multiplier. This is 833,000 damage on a regular combination blow melee. When you are invis, which you will probably be after punching something, if the target is frozen, which it will be after dodging around it enough times, and with tractor. Alternatively, you could make this 1.15 for the intrinsic debuff, and you'll be hitting about, oh, that's 11. There we go. 737 damage. Or 737,000 damage, sorry. Which is still incredible. Where it gets crazy is if you have grapple melee. So through some testing I did, I found that grapple does about 2.4 times of the base melee. So if we were to plug that in here, you're hitting for 1.7 million damage, 1.8 million almost, on each grapple melee. Even if you do this just once, that is like a huge, huge, huge amount of damage. That all requires a lot of setup though. So let's go for the easiest setup possible. Frozen target. 1-2 punch. Remember, 1-2 punch does not stack with frozen target. So 1-2 punch is the same damage buff as Stylish Executioner. So this is a grapple melee. We have 3x combination blow. Combination blow grants increased melee damage to what I'm hoping is all melees. Let me pull that up here. Yep. Combination blow grants increased melee damage, and this is agnostic to the melee itself, because this works on uncharged melees as well. So I'm really hoping it does work, but from the wording, it looks like it should. Anyways, so the grapple melee will do 24,000 damage. Combination blow buffs that up. 1-2 punch buffs that up even further. Synthoceps on the class item will also buff that up. And we have room for a tractor cannon in the setup. I'll go for the 1.3 because we're not using Stylus Executioner. It is 866 on minimum setup. Like just tractor, 1-2 punch. That's it. That's really all you're doing after you have your combination blow stacks. That is still almost 1,000,000 damage. Depending on how this buff stacking works. This isn't even taking, okay, yeah. This isn't even taking into account the thing I was showing you earlier about the fragments on it. Where is it? Oh yeah. The aspect of courage or fragment. This is a fragment. What the heck? Yeah. Light abilities deal more damage on dark debuff. This grapple melee does unravel. Depending on how the damage numbers are calculated, this should also be increased, potentially to like 1,000,000, which is quite crazy. And with Liar's Handshake, let's say you go and you punch something first with your normal melee, and you have Liar's Handshake up for your grapple melee. Woohoo, now you're hitting like basically 1,000,000. So there's just this has the opportunity to be one of the strongest setups, and it all uses the same fragments, which means whenever you're switching loadouts, like from here to here, you aren't losing your super. You aren't losing any of your abilities, except for, let's say you changed your grenade. Only a grenade will be uncharged to your new one. But you can freely swap between all three of the loadouts. Why am I here? Anyways, yeah, you can freely swap. You won't lose any of your like progress on your super or your abilities. As you could see, my grenades are still charging. My super is still charging. It has not been reset. That is because the fragments are all exactly the same. The only thing that changed is the only thing that reset its cooldown is my dodge. Because, oh, actually both of them are using Gambler's Dodge. Yeah, it's just charged, so you can't see its cooldown. But yeah, that is what I'm going to be taking into the day 1 campaign. And that is what I'm going to be taking into the day 1 raid, most likely. Yeah, that's about it.